The God of the Gita is the God of all religions, including Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, Sikhism, and all other world religions. The title is the outcome of 360-degree evidences we provided. All the world religions have immense respect and praise for the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the only scripture that mentions Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, meaning the Supreme God said. Also, we do believe that the God, the Supreme Power, is one and He is truth. The logical questions that arise are, if the God is one and God's direct scripture is one, then how could Gita be said to be a Hindu text? And when the world praises the Srimad Bhagavad Gita as the epitome of the scriptures, why none accept its God as the one true God, including the Hindus? The world has been popularly acclaiming Sri Krishna to be the God of the Gita. However, the Hindus, even though having possessed the only scripture sermonized by God, yet do not accept Sri Krishna to be the only one true God. Instead, they consider many others as gods like Sri Rama, Shiva, Vishnu, Sai Baba, and numerous others. And in other religions, for some, the God is Allah, for some, the God is Jehovah, for some, Buddha, and for some, Guru Nanak. And for some, even the inert Mother Nature, the sun, and the moon are also gods. The list is large. The number of gods across all the religions of the world is really very large. Additionally, it is believed that the God is omnipresent in all living and non-living. So, in the scenario of multiple gods, for some, Sri Krishna is omnipresent, and for some, Allah is omnipresent. Apparently, we all do believe that the God is truth, and truth is one. It obviously means that the God is one. And in the entire world, there is only one scripture which mentions Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Then logically, the God of that scripture should be accepted as the one true God by all humans. But that is not happening. Thus, a third question that arises is, does it not become mandatory to prove the universal God and whether the universal God is omnipresent? Today, in this modern world, it's not the time of blind faith. It's the time we provide proofs of everything, including the God of the Gita or the universal God. A few details on the major religious divisions with scriptural evidences on the divisions. Today, the divisions are at their peak. The entire human family is divided into 4 major and many minor religions. Furthermore, there are subdivisions within each religion, plus there are country-wise, state-wise, location-wise customs, traditions, languages, etc. Additionally, in the modern world, we have divided ourselves on the basis of urban, rural, developed, developing, rich, poor, variety of professions, dialects of the languages too, and the list goes on. The division is at its peak, where we have individual opinions clashing with every other person's opinion. There is a silent, weaponless, but violent war of thoughts within every person and between every two persons, owing to indefinite divided opinions. The 4 major divisions are, in their order of establishment, Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, followed by other religions and non-religions. The subdivisions in Hinduism are as follows. Here are the subdivisions in Islam and the subdivisions in Buddhism, the subdivisions in Christianity. We saw the data on how the world is divided into 4 major religions, and each of the 4 is divided within as well. And every new religion, when established, had obviously divided the earlier ones. whereas the religious references mention do not divide. Quran reference from chapter 42 mentions only one religion. He decreed for you the same religion decreed for Noah. And what we inspired to you and what we decreed for Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, you shall uphold this one religion and do not divide it. The history shows that the first religion is Hinduism, second is Abraham's Islam, third Buddhism, and then Jesus' Christian religion. According to this data, the Noah's religion should be Hinduism. But Hinduism believes in many gods, not one. Then how could it be that one religion decreed for Noah, which the rest were to uphold and not divide it? Quran verse from chapter 9 mentions the Jews said Ezra is the son of God, while the Christians said Jesus is the son of God. They have surely deviated, which means they have divided. Religious references also mention divided we fall. Quran from chapter 30, do not fall in idol worship, like those who divide their religion into sects, each party rejoicing with what they have, which means Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and all those who are dividing the religions within and across are all idols, and people following them are the idol worshippers. Bible verse by Matthew mentions, knowing their thoughts, he said to them, every kingdom divided against itself comes to ruin, and every kingdom or house divided against itself will not stand. Gita verse 21 from chapter 7 mentions, whichever person wishes to faithfully worship or remember whichever corporeal form of deity, I ascertain that very firm faith of that particular devotee. So it means to whichever religion one belongs, he will just accept his religious father's words. The idols have divided the one religion kingdom into more kingdoms and then further subdivided against itself to cities and houses. Gita verse 66 of chapter 18 mentions, abandon all religions like Hindu, Muslim, and so on, based upon outer godry of communal sects and factions. The irony is that the human society today is left thoroughly brainwashed to feel that diversity is good. However, an old story tells otherwise. Sticks in a bundle can't be broken, but sticks taken singly can be easily broken. Same applies to people. Diversity weakens and the union strengthens. The fundamental need is to prove the identity of the one religion and the one true God. Then all the divisions will be self-erased in unity. Our topic revolves around the Gita because of its unmatched significance. The Gita is universally renowned as the jewel of spiritual wisdom, and it is the greatest religious classics of all time. It is not just another book. It is the only text that has the direct instructions of the Lord Himself. No other philosophical or religious work reveals in such a lucid and profound way the nature of consciousness, the self, the universe, and the supreme. Shankaracharya calls the Gita as an epitome of the essentials of the whole Vedic teaching. Thus, the universal God shall be proven through the Gita, well supported by references from other religious texts. Let's see the significance of the Gita being the most translated and commented. The Gita is probably the most translated of any Asian text. In 1785, the first translation in English was published, followed by other European languages such as French, German, and Russian. In 1982, a count of 1,891 translations of the Bhagavad Gita in 75 languages, including 273 in English, were cited. The Gita has attracted much scholarly interest in Indian history, and some 227 commentaries have survived in the Sanskrit language alone. In addition to the classical commentaries, there are modern era commentaries too. Now let's know a little bit about the top 4 classical commentaries. First one being Shankaracharya, happened in 800 Common Era. His commentary is the oldest and most influential surviving one. The tradition he followed was monist and non-dualistic, called Advaita Vedanta. The second of the classical commentaries is given by Abhinavagupta, happened in 1000 CE. His commentary is surviving into the modern era too. He uses Brahman, Atman, Shiva, and Krishna interchangeably. He belongs to the Kashmir Shaivism tradition. Ramanuja, 1100 CE, he disagreed with Adi Shankara, and the tradition he followed was that of dualistic and qualified monism philosophy called Vishishtadvaita. Fourth being Madhvacharya, happened in 1250 CE from the dualistic school called Dvaita Vedanta. None of the 4 classical commentators agreed with each other. The notable modern commentators of the Bhagavad Gita are, we may observe that neither the classical nor the modern era commentators agreed with each other, and they came up with their own commentary. A question arises here, why and what's the effect of having numerous contradicting opinions on the one God's scripture? We have understood that Srimad Bhagavad Gita is highly appreciated for being the most translated and most commented. However, it's criticized as well, basically for the 2 points, one being Varna system. The Gita presents its teaching in the context of a war in the battlefield of fight and kill, when Arjuna is advised by Bhagavan to do his Swadharma, a term that has been variously interpreted. Viewers, let me reiterate, Swadharma has been variously interpreted, meaning the opinions are divided. The Gita has been cited and criticized as a Hindu text that supports Varna Dharma, the caste system that creates division. The second point of criticism is political violence. In light of the ahimsa, non-violence teachings in Hindu scriptures, the Gita has been criticized as violating the ahimsa value, or alternatively as supporting political violence. Viewers, it is clear that the contradicting commentaries are a result of the divided opinions. The same is the case with criticisms too. Now it's time to apply our mind and question as to why do we have so many commentaries for the same 700 verses composed by sage Vyasa. It is said that the truth is one. Thus, the true interpretation also should be one. Hence, the many contradicting interpretations on the Gita are surely false. It is the evidences that prove the truth, and the evidences we are going to put forth in a structured flow will intellectually lead all to accept the God of the Gita as the universal God. Our strategy uses questioning technique, and all the questions are answered by way of evidences from the Gita, the 4 Vedas, the Manusmriti, the Quran, the Bible, and the Guru Granth Sahib. Our strategy uses Sanskrit word meanings along with some English word origins, their definitions supported by evidences. Our strategy arrests the possibility of generating another interpretation. Our strategy reveals many mysteries in a very practical manner, eliminating all kinds of blind faiths we have been living with unknowingly. Our strategy aims to lead all to unanimously accept the God of the Gita as the universal God. Our strategy on showing other religious proofs are, we observe that it becomes complicated if the other religious references are presented on every subtopic along with references from the Gita. So the solution is, once the God of the Gita or the universal God is proven, then it becomes easier to understand the other religious references. So the episodes would be in this fashion. We welcome challenges and questions. To keep it short and interesting, we will provide minimum needed evidences, but one may request for more with the objective of uniting the entire humanity. Please email us on the given email address with your questions. We request the viewers to watch the 3 series and the episodes within the series in the numbered sequence. We have used questioning technique where each and every point is questioned, answered in the most practical manner, supported by religious scriptural references and other authentic evidences, and thus are arranged in logically meaningful flow.